they took him and they threw him down on that cross. The soldiers stretched him out. My God Almighty. And here comes a soldier. I wish I had a hammer to illustrate what I'm talking about. The soldier came over and they must have asked for the biggest, strongest, most muscular soldier to come, because the nails were quite large, enough to pierce his hands and go through the wood. And they asked the soldier to come, and down on his knees, there was at Jesus' hand. He lifted the hammer, and with all the force of his might, he laid on the nail. And his flesh rent. You can hear the sound as it comes from the hammer hitting the nail. But it wasn't enough. He got up and he went to the other side. He knelt down. And again, with all his force, he held a hammer. And he placed the hammer on top of that nail. His leg, you could hear his flesh as it rents. But it wasn't enough. They got to his feet. And in front of him, while he was bleeding, bruised, battered, right there they put his feet on top of each other, enough to make sure that he was secured to the cross. God Almighty, I say it because I can see that now. I can see that. From a distance in my mind, I can see that. The women were now crying helplessly. The soldiers reached back. And with all his force, matter of fact, with a greater force, he hit that nail, and it protrudes both feet and into that wood. Now understand this. The weight from his body is going to affect the strength of his skin around the nail. They slowly raise the cross. And you can see them behind the cross as they raise the cross. I can see the flesh now as it slowly rains. I can see it now as the flesh begins to, the pressure from his weight begins to tear into his hands and tear into his feet. I watch as the blood flows down slowly. They asked for some assistance. They brought the cross to the center where the hole was already dug. They raised the cross. I can hear the soldiers said now, on the count of 3. And they picked up that cross, held it upright, and there was Jesus hanging there. He could have called 10,000 angels to destroy the world instead of 3. There he was hanging there. And I can hear them now, 1. As they began to move it upward, 2, and they raised it up enough above the hole. God Almighty, can you understand what was going on right now? The pain and the suffering. And they counted on the count of 3. When they said 3, they flung the cross down in the hole. And my God, his hands ripped, his feet ripped, and blood began to flow down. Amen. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. You would have thought that after his intestines start protruding, and after he's battered and bleeding from all over, that they would have been satisfied. In mockery, they called for the crown of thorns. In mockery, they called for the crown of thorns. One commentator said the thorns were about 1/2 inch long, and they were turned inside towards the skull. They had enough flexibility that they could direct the thorn around his head. Jesus. They placed the crown of thorn on top of his head, resting it very comfortable on top of his head. force the soldier push the thorn down. Come and did it from the side of his head, you could see the thorn protruding. As blood began to flow down his forehead.
Thank you.
His eyes were filled with blood.
Thank you.
His mouth was full of blood. His stomach was filled with blood. His body was dripping with blood. Were you there when they crucified?
Thank you. Oh,
they said, "You are the King of the Jews.
Oh, God.
We're going to embarrass you." Beside him, as he was bruised and battered, stood two thieves. Jesus. The one said to him, "If you be the Son of God, why don't you take yourself down and take us down as well?"
Thank you.
But the other, with good sense, "So would you please remember me when you go into your kingdom?" Jesus, even though he was suffering mercy, he looked over, his eyes could barely open, but he looked with compassion, and he said, "Today you shall be with me in paradise." That's the Jesus we serve. His mercy is from everlasting to everlasting. He is gone. Hey, glory to God. I say this to say this, that no matter what your condition is, no matter what your situation is, his mercy can reach to you. Somebody may have gave you over. You may have done some hideous crime, but it doesn't matter. His mercy is still here today and is reaching down for somebody. It's not over.
Thank you.
So the thief couldn't understand why he was on the cross.
Thank you.
His faithful followers by now were disappointed. They thought of themselves that when he died on Calvary, that would spell the end of hope. Jesus. But what they didn't know, that was just the beginning of hope. All they could see was from a human perspective. They understood what it was for somebody to die and be buried, and they're gone, and the feeling of finality, the feeling of loss. And they looked at their Savior, they looked at their Lord, and all they could see in their mind is that he's gone forever. But what they didn't know is that the grave could not hold him. It was just for a while, but he shall come again. Hallelujah! Hope died.
Amen.
The devotion for God failed. They stopped preaching.
Oh, Jesus.
Because it was just too much to explain. How do you explain your Lord and your Master been killed and buried and gone forever? How do you explain that to the world? But thanks be to God, we don't have to explain that because we have a better story.
Amen. Thank you.
So get over to Sunday morning.
Thank you, man.
Sunday morning.
Thank you.
Morning of hope. If you would permit me to finish the story about the crucifixion before I get to Sunday morning. I stood there and I watched as his mouth and his lips became dry from thirst. He had tried so hard to keep his mouth wet. But by now, he had been dried out, dehydrated, and bleeding. In a faint voice, he asked, "Water. Water."
Oh, God.
Very faint, you could hardly hear what he was saying. Somebody heard him.